beautiful astrology soulmates. It's me, Stormie Grace, and welcome to your full moon report for the full moon happening at 5 degrees of Leo, January 25th of 2024. And let me just tell you out of the gate, soulmates, this is a moon that I think calls for a maximum amount of courage, of course, because we've got that Leo vibration, but also a maximum amount of grace. Now, here's an interesting little note, whether we've met before or not. The name Stormie Grace actually comes from what my spiritual teacher taught me about the word grace. And I'm just going to say it, so plug your ears if you don't like curse words. But she said that grace is the slack that the universe cuts us for being assholes. And I realized that I needed a lot of grace in my life. I needed a lot of forgiveness because I am fallible. I am not perfect. And I needed to be able to extend that out to others. And when I have felt that extended to me through the grace of the universe or other people, I'm also able to extend that. And I think that this moon calls for a lot of courage to live with a lot of grace, but also the grace to accept yourself as you're stepping up and stepping out with this really big, impactful voice that is maybe very different than the group or the society thinking that you have been around previously. Make no doubt, I think that this full moon is a part of a much bigger cycle that has been showing you that it is time to be bold, it's time to be courageous, and it is time to come up and come out, but not to be doing that, not making your way to success while stepping on other people to get there. It's a big moon of awareness, and that's what lunations do for us. So we're going to get all the way into that in just a minute. If we haven't met before, I am practicing professional astrologer Stormie Grace. I am a Western and a humanistic astrologer, and those are the viewpoints that I use on this particular channel. So if you're into that or interested in that, make sure you hang out and stick around with me. I look forward to walking with you all year. I walk with you every year, every month. And if you're following me on Instagram, I also walk with you through these transits every single day. Now, I've also got 3 different ways for you to learn with me on this particular channel. So you can head over right to the playlist where we've got the free YouTube Academy that was put together by myself and astrologers from all over the world who are key and masters at their craft. And we are taking you through the history of Western astrology all the way through synastry astrology. So you have a free playlist where each class is an hour and a half or more, getting you set with quality information to learn for absolutely free. It is there for you. So if free is where your budget is at, you have got amazing teachers to take advantage of. So click over into that playlist and take advantage. If you're looking to pull in just a little bit closer, I have also got my astrology digital classes where you can work self-paced in your home, in the garage, wherever you like to do astrology, and you can get your 101 basics and your 102 basic foundations underneath you. And those are actually on sale all through January, so you can click in the link in the description box down below and take advantage of those classes. And if you are really serious, you're like, I'm ready to pull in Stormie, I want to know how to speak this language, I also offer one-on-one tutoring sessions as well as live classes that will be taught throughout the year. And you can find out more about that on my website at stormiegrace.com, which of course I have put the link in the description box down below. All right, beautiful friends, let's go. Let's get in here. So as you can see, I have got the chart of the moon as well as the information if you want to calculate this chart by yourself. On the wheel over here for you. So we're going to see this moon happening at 5 degrees of Leo. And of course, this is happening January 25th, 2024. Now, the first thing we want to do is understand whether you are new or you're a little bit more advanced. We want to really hone into what is happening in the full moon cycle. So first of all, what we can see is that the sun and the moon are in opposition to each other. And you can see that highlighted on the screen. So we see them going across from one another. So when the full moon is happening, it's asking us to end something, acknowledge something, or adjust something. Because as the sun and the moon are in opposition, we have all of the light in the sky. We can really see things. There's an emotional illumination that is happening for us, right? Think about walking into a bedroom, and at the new moon you walk into the bedroom and the room is dark and you kind of have to fumble around and figure out where you're going to go, where you're going to put things, where's the light switch, right? But at the full moon you walk into the room and the lights are on, so you can see it. There is a chair in the middle of my room. Why is that there? I need to end that, acknowledge it, or adjust it. So here we're working with this at the capacity of an emotional level, okay? So that is what's happening, and we see this in the cycle every 28 days. So as we're experiencing this, first of all, you can just go back 28 days ago to where we were at our last full moon and what was happening for you then, what was unwinding for you. But even more importantly, I would love for you to take this particular full moon in Leo and go back into the lunar family that it actually belongs to. So the story in your own life. Now, first of all, walk back in your life to July 28th of 2022, okay? Because we had a new moon happening at 5 degrees of Leo. So at that time, this is the beginning of this familial story. What was unfolding for you? You were planting your seeds of intention. It may have been dark. You didn't really know what it was going to look like, but you were planting those seeds of intention. What were you planting those seeds of intention around? Now, as we got to April 27th of 2023, we had a first quarter moon, and that was actually at 7 degrees of Leo, okay? So at the first quarter moon, what we're doing is we're primed to take action. It is like, nope, the people, places, and things that can't fit my vibration of what I asked for, what I lobbed into the water at that new moon, they're going to start to fall away. And my job is to build and to say, this is what I want for my future, to go forward and to take those steps. And we're usually moving quite quickly when we're doing that as well. Now we come forward to January 25th and we've got this full moon happening at 5 degrees of Leo. Okay, so something is here to be realized. Something is big, it's being illuminated, and it's really got set in motion at that July new moon energy. So what is it for you? What can you see here? What are you ending? What are you acknowledging? What are you adjusting? Now we're going to see the cycle come all the way to a close when we get to October 24th, because we're going to have a last quarter moon that is at 1 degree of Leo. And at that last quarter, we're going to wind it all the way down this year. So what you've been working on since July of 2022, we're going to wind it down. We're going to bring it to closure. We're going to start to turn away from it. I no longer need or want that vision. It's not serving me anymore. I'm ready to move forward. I'm let it to, energetically begin to disengage and release from it. And meanwhile, you'll be starting another vision in the Leo areas of your chart. Okay. So first of all, I want you to think about that lunar family and where this has been happening in your chart. But the next place, if you're ready to go there, is to actually get into your chart. Find these degrees. First and foremost, find 5 degrees of Leo in your chart so you can see what house this is happening in for you. And if you happen to have any placements between 0 and 10 degrees of any of the fixed signs, which is going to be Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. Okay, if you've got anything from 0 to 10 degrees, it is being touched upon in this moon. So in your own chart, start to look at not only where was this lunar family presenting itself, but also what are the houses and aspects and planets in your own personal chart that are being pulled into the story to really tell you with nuance what exactly is unfolding for you, okay? So as we're looking at this full moon, we see that sun and that moon in opposition to each other. So we know that the other thing that's being illuminated or shown to us is that my needs versus my wants, my work versus my home, this versus that, you versus me, right? Which is very much so the story when we're dealing with Leo. It's me, my voice, my expression, my creativity, my joy, opposing the sun that we see over here in the energy of Aquarius, which was very much so this emphasis of the we, the collective, of friendship, of the greater humanity. It's us. It's a we vibration. So as the me and the we are in opposition to each other, what we know is happening is you want to say something, I want to say something. And the we wants me to say something else, or wants me to believe something else, or I feel like I'm different than the we, or I feel like I have nothing to add to the we. So it's this opposition of the me and the we. Now, one of the things that we want to have when we have any kind of opposition, but particularly this full moon, is we don't want to continue to let the opposition get tense and pull further and further and further and further away. Because what happens for us internally is it becomes this conversation of not enough, me versus we, and this can very quickly, especially in a societal landscape, the moon rules the people. This can turn into warring energy. This can turn into fighting energy where, we think, oh, okay, this is about the people, we the people, right? Especially in the United States. And the next thing you know, we've got this huge piece of political turmoil on, and we're crushing the desires of the individual, or the individual wants to take on the entire, we body. And this can all get political. It can get nasty inside of families. It can get nasty inside of social groups, right? So instead of creating more opposition and tension, we're actually looking at this full moon to create the integration. And so again, I flash you back to, what did you start in your own expression of your own voice, who you are, what you have to offer, your creative joy that you have to share? What were you starting to work on in July of 2022? Because it's being called up and out for you to acknowledge that there is a place on the stage and in the world for it at this particular time, okay? And that there's a joy. There can be a joy in sharing what it is that you know. And when you take that big Leo courage to share and to express the joy that you know, and you put it together with being able to share it in the right groupings, the right tribes, for the good of humanity, not just the good of you. It's I use me to also serve the we. This is a place where we can actually create some beautiful integration of this opposition. Instead of the pulling apart, we integrate those two things, where the we and what's good for the we and how I can serve the we walks these two energies together for a nice intertwining interdependence. So it's really this other place, though, too, where it is like, how can you, this question I think of, how can I, in the me, the Leo energy, how can this bold energy, this courageous energy of mine be used to create an emotional joy and salve to maybe a grouping of people who need to hear that? And one of the ways that I see this is, first of all, we have massive exposure to technology at this particular time. So thinking of this at a larger level of what is it that you are putting out into the social space, right? Whether it just be on your private accounts, or if you're commenting with people, how can you use your voice to add to and build up, or to constructively criticize so that a we can grow? How are you able to add that? The other place that I see this, and I think that our next aspect absolutely speaks to it, is the fact that we have to be mindful of my me and my we. If it's me trying to speak into a grouping of people that don't want to hear it, or they're not my tribe, this is not my tribe, or it's no longer my tribe, I'm going to naturally create opposition with that. So, right, where is this question for each of us to be answering at this particular full moon, and having this illumination of, are you speaking with, to, for, and in the right groups where your me is profound and beautiful and looks absolutely normal to the we? And this creates, again, that integration that creates growth. So this is a great question. And I want to just give you a flat out example, right? Because sometimes our tribes, our friendship groups change. And this year with Pluto in Aquarius, we are absolutely going to see a time where we're going to have to differentiate ourselves from the people, places, and things that are no longer in alignment with us. And we have to do that, right? Because some people don't want to go the direction that you're going to want to go. Some Organizations don't want to go the direction that you want to go, whatever it is. So one of the examples I think about this is, you know, if you have been a person, let's just use astrology, you have an astrological voice, you even actually have some skills, but you haven't been really fully practicing it. And instead, you're talking about it with your spouse or your friends who don't speak the astrological language, right? And it's creating frustration, or you're starting to feel more and more isolated. Talk to astrologers. This is your sign. Come and talk to and be in the places where you're talking to astrologers. So when you say the sun and Pluto are in conjunction, which they are at this particular full moon, our eyes light up and what you're saying seems normal, and you are raising us up. You're raising all of the boats for all astrologers when you speak love into the space where it can also be received, and we can work together in a collective way to raise it up. One of the other places I think of women's spaces, I know I've been talking about this a lot lately, but if you are going through perimenopause, menopause, are you speaking into your family and they're like, yeah, listen, I don't know anything about that. Come and speak into the spaces where other people have found healing and solution to living a different way that makes this manageable. So then you're not speaking into what feels like an empty void, making you feel alone, but instead you're speaking into the space where this thing that will happen to all women, right? You lift the boat, you make the we more powerful by adding your voice to it. So in your own life, I would love for you to think about that. Where is your we? Where is your me speaking into a void that it could be lifting the boats and the sails and the industry and the hearts of a different we, if that's really what is needed? So this is a really kind of interesting dynamic. Now, the other part of that is that we do see that the sun and Pluto, if you can see here on the chart, and I made these a little bit bolder lines in case you're a bit newer and you're not exactly sure what you're looking at, but we can see here that the sun and Pluto are also in conjunction here under this big, beautiful circle. So it means the sun and Pluto are dancing together. Now, as the sun and Pluto are dancing together and then opposing the moon, first of all, the sun and Pluto is entirely intense. It's increased intensity. Pluto just got back to Aquarius as well. So it is like moving in power. It is highlighting a pain point. It is highlighting a point where advancement and evolution is needed. And the sun here is motivated to do that work. It's like, yeah, you're right. We need the intensity of transformation, and we are powerfully capable. We have a powerful ability to change the direction and the course of our lives by seeing this revelation, by going straight to the pain point. Where is your pain point? Where is the place where you feel like you're speaking into the void or you're on your own? So again, this brings up that idea of making sure you're aligning with the right tribe, the right friendships, things like this. Now, what it can also do, and this is where I think that we may see it a bit more in the mundane, is that it can make this sense of don't ask any questions, right? Where the we tells the me, you're not allowed to ask any questions. You have to think like this. You have to be like this. So we can see that energy under pressure here, and this becomes very Plutonian. It creates the power struggle of whose voice is bigger. Now, you may experience that not just in the mundane, but in your own life as well, where you're like, wait a minute, like that is some manipulative stuff that is going on over here. Or maybe you're doing the manipulating because you don't realize that's a behavior that is a pattern, or you don't realize the style or the behavior or the psychological style that's behind that, right? But what it will feel like is power struggle. And instead, if you see some of this coming up in your own life, one of the things that you can do with this particular aspect, speaking to this emotional lunation, is research, investigate what is there. Why are you doing that? Why does that keep showing up as a pattern in your relationships, in your finances, in your business? You know, and if it's a pattern of deep success, this is where you can literally use your big, beautiful voice to speak research and speak information into someone else's life, because maybe you have solved that. Maybe you have figured out how to touch something and make it make money. Maybe you have struggled with a business that was failing and you learned how to make it work. A marriage that was on the way out, being single and like, I'm going to be single until I die and not really wanting that. Whatever it is that you have maybe found your way out with your pain point, now you can speak that into someone else's life. They need the information and you get the opportunity to take this big Leo moment and speak information and healing into their life. Speak psychological behavior, speak pattern behavior, speak structure into their life to be able to help them. So I think that this is an absolutely incredible little bit of energy that we're dealing with at this particular time. Now I want to move over to get another little layer deeper into this particular moon, because we do see that the moon is locked into a T-square as well. And we've got Jupiter at the apex, okay? So the apex is the tipping point where all of these energies are essentially going to try to funnel themselves out, okay? So that apex being Jupiter in Taurus. Now, Jupiter in Taurus is, first of all, very comfortable here. It's been traveling here for quite some time, so it's like it's not new on the island in any way. And instead, Jupiter acting as this guru or the beautiful teacher. It's in a Venus ruled sign. So it's, instead of Jupiter in Aries, which is like, no, listen, I'm going to tell you how we're going to do this. Jupiter in Taurus is like, okay, so listen, let me attract you to me. Okay, right? Let's have a little bit of grace. Have some grace with you. You're learning to step up. You're learning to step in the next direction you need to go. And while you're doing that, it must mean that if you're doing that, other people might be learning in that way too, right? So it's this exchange of the great teacher teaching you about grace. Now, sometimes when we're exploring this great place of deep wisdom that Jupiter offers, because Jupiter does offer deep wisdom, but it comes through experience. Sometimes in order for me to get that wisdom, the experience I have to have is being really not graceful with other people, experiencing that in return, and then learning how I can do that better on the other side, right? And so you can even think about that wherever you're at on this spectrum of learning. Jupiter in Taurus is bringing you into the material plane. It's in Taurus and earth energy. It's a fixed energy. It is grounded. It is solid here. And it is saying, okay, what is here though. Now we need some grace to navigate it as we let this thing take on a new shape, as we let these relationships take on a new shape. So there is a fair amount of practicality about the whole thing when we're dealing with Jupiter and Taurus, but there is also a kindness and there is also a grace that comes pouring into that, okay? Now, when we're doing a lunar report, we want to look at what's going on with the moon, the ruling planet of the moon, which is the sun. So we talked about the sun being in conjunction with Pluto, opposing this moon, and also this conversation that it's locked in here with Jupiter. So next, outside of this connection, we want to see any other planets that are having exact conversations. So one of those sets of planets we can see here is Mars and Chiron. Now we see Mars over here in the vibration of Capricorn, living its best life. Mars in Capricorn is exalted. So Mars is over here been like, yeah, let's do it. Let's have some structure. Let's build things. Let's self-discipline. Let's enact some self-discipline. That is Mars in Capricorn vibration, and Mars is all about it, okay? And now we've got Chiron over here in Aries, which is ruled by Mars. So we've got this nice reflection, first of all, of having them kind of understand what's going on in each other's conversations, okay? But Chiron is our wounded healer energy. And it's the wound to the identity, Aries, who I am, who I know myself to be, how I represent myself, my own identity. But Chiron is no longer just looking at you. You're not looking at your identity just through the wound anymore. You're not just who you used to be, right? Instead, there's been some healing. There's a refreshing to the perspective that you have on yourself by healing, by forgiving, by walking forward through where you've been hurt, what you've grown through, understanding struggle, understanding nature, understanding these things that have happened to you. You become able to extend that grace out to other people. And that's the exact beauty of Chiron in Aries. By understanding the pain of your own identity, you can actually offer to grace to other people, and that brings healing to you. But now, as Mars and Chiron, as great as all this relation is, are in cardinal square to one another because they're both in cardinal energies, one of the things that can happen is that you feel like, no, I know who I am today. You are not about to tell me. And this can be the thought process, or don't you know who I am, right? This can be a thought process that is very much so coming up. And in one way, I will say that I think that it is actually quite useful, because it's that place from the me and the we where we go, well, no, I mean, this is who I am. I don't need to compromise myself anymore. I know this about myself today, right? I'm an astrologer, right? Or I do this, or whatever it is that you have come to learn and know through your own pain points, that yes, this is true for me today, and I'm willing to stand in this truth, right? So whatever that is, where we don't need to compromise, that's fantastic. But it's also the place in this cardinal square that says, okay, well, while you do not have to compromise, or you don't have to shut down like maybe you used to do, or pretend that you're not this thing, you also can't trample other people. Right? You just cannot trample other people, because there may be an authoritative energy that is coming in and being like, yeah, well, I'm glad that that's who you are. That doesn't work here. And you're like, okay, well, that's fine. I'll just go actually where it works. And yet again, we circle back to this idea of the me and the we, and who are your tribes that you're speaking into. And even within your tribes, how are you sharing your me with your we in a way that is going to create something cohesive in your social world, right? So remember that while you're done all of this healing at this particular moon, what you were trying to build, you were initially calling in July of 2022. To thine own self be true is absolutely correct, while we also do no harm. Okay? So we've got another aspect happening here where we can see that in addition to Mars and Chiron in this square to one another, we have also got Mercury in a conjunction here with Mars. Now, Mercury just recently fully out of its post-retrograde shadow time, so all the way done with the reflection time. It's applying things forward. It's applying this new structure. It's applying this new information that it is bringing forward. But Mercury in conjunction with this Mars energy, this is discipline. This is discipline. This is restraint of tongue and pen, right? Where do you need to say something and hold up for yourself and say, no, listen, okay, this is where I'm at. These are my views. These are my ideas. And I'm not going to compromise on that. But also, where do you have this small moment of pause in between where you can say, well, maybe that's just what I think here. It's not, I don't need to say everything that I'm thinking, right? Or I don't need to attack someone else because they believe differently than me. This becomes this really interesting line, especially when we get Aquarian energy involved, because we start to look at the collective. And where will we see in the world, which we're going to watch over this next 4 weeks, where collective voices shut down me voices. I think that we will see absolutely plenty of this as we watch, especially in the United States. So remember, restraint of tongue and pen, and where could this absolutely save the day for you? Now, we've got some helpers to this as well. As you can see here, we have also got Saturn, and I almost said Saturn and Pisces. We've also got Saturn in Pisces here in this lovely conversation to Venus. Now, this is a little bit more subtle because it's a really nice kind of soft aspect that is happening here, but I still think that it's particularly useful because Saturn here is really calling in and calling over to Venus and being like, hey, listen, this is a sextile, so it's an opportunity, but we intelligently take action on the opportunity. And it's this mix between earth and water, where Saturn and Pisces is like, we have to stop talking about it. We have to be about it. I have to trust. I have to have some faith. I have to have some grace, right? I have to be about living those principles. While Venus is in Capricorn is like, I have to lift these rose-colored glasses off. I cannot sit back and pretend anymore that, you know, these authoritative stories that have governed my life and have allowed past behavior, or that these authoritative stories about how I'm supposed to work, how I'm supposed to feel, what is right, what are the stories of society. I cannot just sit back and let these rose-colored glasses sit on. And instead, in a sextile, which is a nice, soft, beautiful aspect of ease, what I think that each of us are offered under this, if I can say that 3 times fast, what I think each of us are offered under this is a really nice opportunity to say, okay, where does, through a demonstration of faith and of grace and of practicing compassion and forgiveness and grace with other people, where does this actually open up a space for new business, for new relationships, for new conversation, for this place where I remember where I struggled in my own things, and so I'm able to have enough compassion to love you, and vice versa. You know, where am I just being me and I need to be loved on a little bit? I think that this gives an opportunity for the access of giving and receiving, truly giving and receiving of love, of companionship, of partnership, of new doors opening, a real opportunity to exist in our life. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. Now, the last aspect I want to share with you, and this is if you're a little bit more advanced, you might really be into this, and I would love to hear your feedback in the comment section down below. But we also see that Saturn is here, and one other little conversation, Saturn in Pisces is in what we call a semi-sextile, so just 30 degrees away, essentially, from this sun over here in Pluto, and the sun over here in Aquarius, and Pluto in Aquarius as well. So we've got this conversation going here. Now, the semi-sextile is exactly what it sounds like. It's little. It's a minor aspect. If we did all the minor aspects, we would never get through like a weekly transit report, unless you're Rick Levine, of course. All right. So we've got the semi-sextile aspect here where they're going, okay, listen, this is, I'm having this little song in the back, and it's giving a little minor influence. I can feel it. I can't quite tell you what it is, but I do know that it's there. Now, with Saturn, Sun, Pluto in this conversation of the semi-sextile right here, what I really think it is first of all, it is opening the door to adjust our awareness. Right? This is an adjustment of awareness. I am aware, Saturn, of my responsibility for my reactions, my spiritual space, my spiritual status, how I am taking care of and displaying that things, and my need for how this impacts the whole, the we, humanity, my friendships, my groups, my social groupings. So there's this subtle push, I think, that does sit behind here as a helper to help us take responsibility for that. Now, the other thing about it is that I think it brings in a fair amount of self-reflection, right? A fair amount of self-reflection, because I go, all right, now wait a minute. Where am I limiting myself, Saturn, or where am I capable of mastery, Saturn, as well, that this grouping over here could help me with, or is keeping me from, depending on who and how I align. And the last thing that I think is the most important thing, and the reason I wanted to bring this aspect in, is because it allows for grace for incremental progress. We don't have to have it all figured out today, right? These openings in ourselves and these small, steady steps of action that we take, I think are as important as the big leaps that we find ourselves taking. We've got a big year and a big changing world going on right in front of us, and it is not us and them. It is me aligned with the people and the voices and the tribe that I can help lift up, while also providing a lot of grace for myself and for others as we build a new world forward together. So I hope that this resonates with you just a little bit, and it's giving you some things to think about. So make sure you let me know in the comment section down below, whether you're a new learner or an advanced learner, where you are able to pick up what's going on in this particular report and what is it bringing up for you? What were you doing in July of 2022? Also, make sure, as my bonus to this video, that you check in the description box down below, because I have done a short little breakdown with a question for each of the signs for you to consider as you're going to experience this full moon. All right, my beautiful astrology soulmates, I love you a ton. Please check in the description box down below for all your goods to get in contact with me, to anything you need astro. I love you a ton, and I look forward to checking in with you in that comment section down below. Bye, beautiful friends.